Hi, it's Eliza. Welcome back. Hi, it's Eliza. Welcome back to my Building a Startup series. Hi, it's Eliza. Welcome back to my Building a Startup series. We usually see people reflect upon their startup success only after it's happened. So this series is to give a frank discussion of the nitty-gritty of building your own tech company. Whether it succeeds or loses, the point is that you'll see it as we go along, and so that everyone, including me, can learn something from it. So today I'm going to talk about something that I personally dread, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs do, which is the elevator pitch. If you don't know what the elevator pitch is, it's supposed to be like if you were to walk into an elevator with the biggest VC that you've could possibly be in an elevator with, and they say, what does your company do? You've got to finish your pitch in the time of that elevator ride. So it's just supposed to be 1 to 2 sentences, really quickly talking about what your company is and does, which is obviously very stressful because how can you possibly describe all aspects of your business in 1 to 2 sentences? Spoiler alert, you can't. But you can sort of do the best you can. So it is actually quite a difficult exercise. And I know this to be true because if you Google it, there are about 1 million articles talking about how to structure your elevator pitch so that it can really hook people into your idea. But actually, today I want to talk about something else. Plot twist. Because I've been there now a few dozen times where someone comes up to me, we're having a conversation, they ask me what my company does, I give the elevator pitch. But guess what? Most conversations don't actually happen just in an elevator, and there's a lot that happens before an elevator pitch and after an elevator pitch. And when I tried to look that up on Google, I didn't really get any responses, and it can actually be almost a bigger deal than the elevator pitch itself. So what do you do after you've given the elevator pitch? So I'm going to give a couple of things that I've learned after having done this way too many times. So the first thing that I'll say is almost a bit of a cop-out, but you might want to consider holding off on actually giving your elevator pitch for as long as possible. So here's the thing. You're in a casual conversation with someone, and inevitably after you sort of chit-chat maybe about the weather or something, the typical question that you always get is, so what do you do? I get it. It's a very easy question to answer. Most people have jobs. I'm personally not a fan of starting with jobs, but that's something for another time. And here's the thing. Once you say that you are a startup founder, it can kind of derail the conversation, almost like a conversational black hole. It's almost like someone tells you that they're like a snake wrangler or an astronaut or like a claymation filmmaker or something. It's such an unusual thing to be that of course you're going to have like a million questions. So it can really just, the whole rest of the conversation can really circulate just around that. And that's a real shame because you almost can miss the opportunity to learn anything at all about the other person that you're in a conversation with. So I try as much as possible to preempt the conversation by being the first person to ask about themselves and what they do. It can also be really great context for me as it starts to make me think about what kind of conversation I want to have with the person. Are they a potential customer, a potential investor, someone who can connect me to other people? I know that that's kind of a selfish way to think about it. Maybe I am a little selfish. I think it's also good because it isn't just you talking into the void. You can really engage the other person based on what they're actually interested in, which I think is beneficial for everyone. So next, what usually happens is that you give your elevator pitch and they're going to have some kind of response. I always say that the worst kind of response that you can get is indifference. But sometimes it happens. Some people just don't care about what it is that you're doing. I know it's a shock, especially if you spend every waking hour of your life thinking about your company and planning and working and doing all of this stuff. But some people just won't care about it. And you know what? That's okay. If that happens, just steer the conversation to something else, or even leave the conversation entirely if there's someone else at an event, for example, that you would want to speak to more. Obviously, do it gracefully. Don't just chuck a drink in their face and go. But you know what I mean. I found it far more common that people are going to ask follow-up questions because they're going to be generally pretty interested, especially if you've done your elevator pitch well. These can take different forms, but I found that they tend to fall into three main categories: clarifiers, questions about the problem, and questions about your insight. One good exercise is to list the 20 questions that you think are most likely to come up as a result of you talking about your product, and then have those questions prepared in advance like you would do in a job interview. I have also, in addition to my elevator pitch, developed a sort of backup pitch. And what this is that if I give the 1 to 2 sentences and they still seem really interested and they want to hear more, I've got a sort of backup little spiel to talk about some more of the details about what it is that my company does and the various aspects of it. So, dealing with clarifying questions. So they'll say, when you say X, do you mean this? Clarifying questions are cool because it means that they're really thinking about your product, which is great. I would say listen out for the trends that you hear in the clarifying questions and maybe incorporate those into your backup pitch or what you want to talk about in the conversation in future times to anticipate that people are curious about this. So you might also get questions about the problem that you're trying to solve. So what this is usually asking in the various iterations is this problem big enough? And is this problem felt so keenly that people are going to buy what you are selling in order to solve that problem? So be very crystal clear about what the problem is you're solving, how big it is, and how desperate people are to solve it. The other questions that you'll get are probably about the insight that you have that makes your product different from everyone else's. So do your research into your competitors, do your research into why this hasn't been done before, and have that ready so that you will know how to answer those sorts of questions. In my mind, I think the coolest question and the one that shows the most engagement is if they ask if your product can be applied to a different situation, a different customer segment, or a different type of problem. And I think that that shows the most interest because they're already thinking laterally of ways that you can expand. So also listen out for those because there might be an opportunity that you've completely missed because you didn't know about. Finally, I think it's great to have some sort of ending or some sort of ask that you can end the conversation with. So I know this is old school, but I actually do carry around physical business cards with me pretty much always, and I can give them out to people when necessary. I used to think that this was kind of silly, but it's just become so expected in the business world that not having it is a little strange. It also will prompt them usually to give you their business card, and then you can reach out to them later if it's someone that you really want to continue to engage with. If you have done a very good job establishing their context, who they are and what they're interested in, and done a good job in pitching your company and impressing them with your idea, there will likely be a very natural follow-up. People want to help. So they want to introduce you to people, they want to talk to you about specific things. If you're curious about certain aspects of your company that they have background in, that they can help you with. People want to be helpful. And so there's no problem with saying that you will send an email asking them for a follow-up and then do so. As a warning, a lot of the time It's not likely that every single email you send will be responded to. In fact, most won't. But you've got to try, because you never know when you're going to meet the one person who can really help you along in your company. So you've got to keep trying again and again, almost ad nauseum, until you find the people who are really going to help you along the way. And the results can surprise you. So that's all for this week. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please comment and subscribe. Share this with someone who you know who is doing their own startup or thinking of doing their own startup. And let me know your thoughts down below about things that you found to be helpful in these situations, and also what else you would like for me to talk about. Bye for now.